करो, शाम को कोर्स अटेंड करो और एपीसीआईडी में जमा उसकी कॉपी मुझे दे दे। So anyway, this thing is not relevant to you from individual perspective, but this seminar is relevant to you from your work perspective also. And last, I should say, normally whenever some new policies comes, many have a habit to raise. Our role is to implement the policy by will and will. फिर वहां हमको कोई डाउट खड़े नहीं करने, ठीक है? We should not doubt. It's a democratic process और पॉलिसी बिल्कुल डेमोक्रेटिक में से आई है और ये चलेगी. We need to keep full faith. Last I will say you a small story and conclude क्योंकि काफी भारी भरकम बातें आपसे हो रही है. You are a student. So what happened on one day? स्टोरी मैं आपको बताता हूँ. There was a person who is going to jungle. वो जंगल में जा रहा था and he was bit hungry and tired also. भूखा भी था, थका भी था. So he was searching some place for rest and he is not getting it. But suddenly he found a tree. एक अच्छा सा पेड़ था, पेड़ के नीचे छाया थी. So he felt that this is the place where I can have a rest. और वो जाके उस पेड़ के नीचे बैठा. अब जैसे ही पेड़ के नीचे बैठा, he says I should get relaxed. So immediately he get relaxed. उसने बोला बहुत बढ़िया. अगर इसी पेड़ के नीचे सोने के लिए गद्दा मिल जाए तो तुरंत वहां एक गद्दा आ गया विद पिलो. क्योंकि वो फॉर्चुनेटली जिस पेड़ के नीचे बैठा था वो कल्प वृक्ष था. कल्प वृक्ष मतलब वो वृक्ष जो आपकी इच्छाएं पूर्ण करता है. बोले बहुत बढ़िया. फिर उसने सोचा अब पीने को शीतल जल मिल जाए तो तुरंत ठंडा पानी आ गया. उसने पी लिया. बहुत बढ़िया. फिर बोले थोड़ा भोजन भी आ जाए. 56 भोग आ गए तुरंत सामने, खा भी लिए. Now I have asleep. सो गया. यहाँ सब बढ़िया चला. कल्प वृक्ष के नीचे था. लेकिन उसके बाद जब सो के उठा तब दिमाग घूमा. अरे ऐसा कैसे? पानी आ गया, खाना आ गया, गद्दा आ गया, पेड़ पे कोई भूत तो नहीं है. अब क्या आया? भूत. जब भूत के बारे में सोचा तो सामने भूत आया वो सिंह वाला. अब जैसे भूत को सोचा फिर सोचा ये भूत मुझे खा तो नहीं जाएगा. भूत उसको खा गया. तो पॉइंट यही है कि when some policy, some new thing will come, if we take it positively, जब हम जानते हैं लॉ है तो उसको पॉजिटिवली लेके will and will से इंप्लीमेंट करें तो ठीक है.
Given two purposes or for why you should be listening to NEP 2020 policy related aspects. One more purpose is that we are supposed to disseminate the information that we have collected out of this sponsored program from ICSSR. And one more thing, Mitesh bhai, just on a lighter tone, कुकिंग के लिए होम साइंस डिपार्टमेंट में से फैकल्टी मंगाना शायद ना पड़े. आई एम नॉट दैट बैड. And I think Joshi sir also can join. Project that was sponsored, approved after a lot of deliberations between me and the other project coordinator, Dr. Rahim Munshi, that we applied for this particular project to ICSSR. And this is the title of the project: a study on the awareness and perception of NEP 2020 among universities in Gujarat. An empirical study focusing on implementation status, knowledge gaps and key challenges. So government also wants to know that at which particular stage this particular scheme is and how people are perceiving it and how much is the awareness level with respect to this policy. So I am skipping the introduction part because we have already done it. Two speakers have already talked in detail regarding what NEP 2020 is. We are short of time also. And we want to discuss more regarding the analysis part of the data that has been collected. So I am skipping on the introduction part of it. And we did try to review the literature before we prepared the proposal, wherein the need for new education policy related information we were in a position to collect. Critical success factors for the success of an education policy also we collected, but we did not get much regarding NEP 2020 because of course there is it's in the nascent stage and yet people have not started writing about it. Then we also had a couple of papers on the role of stakeholders in the success of education policy. So we collected this much of information before preparing the draft with respect to the draft of the proposal with respect to this policy. Next please. So as I already mentioned, there is a dearth of studies in context of India and Gujarat specifically on the perception of various stakeholders about the NEP 2020. This study envisions to find the perception of various stakeholders that includes particularly the management. That means we tried interacting with deans, professors, directors and principals of various education institutions, that how they have conducted this and what are their perceptions as far as and this we tried capturing with the help of qualitative research. It was in-depth interviews with these stakeholders and that also helped us prepare certain questions with respect to the final questionnaire that we prepared for teachers, right? And our major sample ultimately turned out to be the teachers working in various education institutions. And when you say education institutions, we tried covering most of the different types of universities, be it private universities, state universities. Deemed universities, I don't think we had much, because see, this was a short-term project, so we did not have enough time to reach out to all. But then all private universities and some of the autonomous institutions also we contacted. So most of the stakeholders have already been covered, right? Next, please. These were the objectives that we proposed for our study. The first one is to assess the level of awareness among key stakeholders, mainly faculty members, as I have already suggested, regarding the NEP 2020. Then to examine teachers' perceptions. Then to identify the critical success factors perceived by faculty as necessary for effective implementation of NEP 2020. Even the people sitting at New Delhi during the meetings, they have informed, they have advised that you try to collect the information which will ultimately help us in successful implementation of NEP. Right? Then to analyze the potential discrepancies among stakeholders in their understanding of NEP 2020 guidelines. So, as MBA students, probably you are more aware regarding what is NEP 2020. Similar type of awareness may not be there across different faculties, across different disciplines. So for us, samples were all the disciplines. We have collected data from arts, sciences, commerce, engineering, right, education. When Dr. Rahim Munshi will present the findings, you will realize that yes, we have tried to incorporate as many institutions of different variety as possible. As Sir was mentioning, Mr. Jaiswal Sir was mentioning in his talk, that there are challenges, right, in terms of particularly when he was mentioning, I was recollecting, he said that we teachers are a little slow, right, and we are not able to, probably we are still gearing up, kind of. The similar experience was there when we were collecting information from them. It was a big challenge. Probably collecting information from students is relatively easier than collecting information from teachers. Online just did not work. Right? Google Forms, out of more than 1,500 circulated, we hardly got response from 35 or 40. Right? Then we had to send, unfortunately we had good amount of budget as far as traveling and data connection was concerned. So we sent our researchers as well as other directors also moved in the field. We tried using all our contacts in order to reach out to teachers. Then in the first round they'll say, okay, I'll keep it ready, come next time. So that next time never used to come. So at particular places, I would not like to name the region, but then there probably it was my fourth attempt, my personal visit, because of which we could get some 100-150 responses. Otherwise, things were difficult, right? So, just imagine this reflects the level of preparation. This reflects their level of involvement. Okay, and I'm talking about both UG as well as PG. Okay, next please. To understand the progress made by universities in Gujarat in relation to critical components outlined in the NEP 2020, this particularly we could capture when we were discussing with deans, professors. Even we tried contacting vice chancellors and we were successful in some 5 or 6 attempts. Only 5 or 6 have replied for that, but then that also has definitely provided some insight. Though we have not included that in our final analysis because of a very small number. Then to identify the challenges or barriers encountered in implementation of NEP. So this was all part of our qualitative research. Okay. Then to assess the knowledge gaps and readiness of various universities in Gujarat concerning NEP 2020. And finally to provide insights and recommendations for enhancing the stakeholder engagement and collaboration in the implementation of NEP 2020. So these were the objectives with which we started. Next please. These were our major research questions from where we also framed hypothesis also. What is the level of awareness amongst different stakeholders? Then how do teachers in Gujarat perceive the goals, objectives and potential impact of this policy? And what are the critical success factors perceived by stakeholders as essential for the effective implementation? And then are there any discrepancies? I have already discussed this when we were talking about objectives. We can go to the next slide. So this is the methodology that has been used for data collection. It was definitely a mixed method research technique. Both qualitative and quantitative research methods have been used. In-depth interviews, particularly with the those who were in the decision-making roles as deans, directors, or principals. Okay. And then there was a phase of quantitative research in which survey method was used in order to collect the data. And structured questionnaire, I don't say it was a completely structured questionnaire. There were open-ended questions because we were basically dealing with perceptions of people. Finally, so our sample was mainly the teachers, right? Then, as far as the deans, HODs, and principals were concerned, they were selected and they were the information was collected through in-depth interviews during the qualitative phase. And not completely structured, but semi-structured interviews were held with various stakeholders. Then descriptive and inferential statistics have been used to analyze the quantitative data obtained through surveys. And the demographics of the sample and the responses of the stakeholders also have been summarized, which will be discussed further by next page. Now this was our sample size, and what we did was initially we had indicated that our sample size will be somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000, and with that only proposal was prepared. But after that, in the first meeting itself, ICSSR said that we are going to reduce your budget by 50% what we had proposed, and you can reduce the sample size also further. But initially this is what was proposed. We had identified universities in Gujarat. So currently there are around 75 universities in Gujarat. So 41 universities from North Gujarat region. This includes particularly Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar also. That is why the maximum number are there. Then Saurashtra 11 universities, Kutch 1 university, Central Gujarat 14, and South Gujarat 8 universities. So what we had proposed was that 20 teachers from each university, then 10 HODs, and all the vice chancellors. This is what initially we had proposed. But looking to the limited time and budget available, then finally we reduced our sample size to 1200. And within that also some of the amount was missing in many questionnaires. So because of that, our ultimate sample size turned out to be 1027. And all the data analysis is based on this 1000 kind of a sample size, right? So this is the research design that is available for this particular research. Now further, I would like to invite Dr. Rahim to discuss the analysis of the data and the findings.
It's going to be a big challenge for me to engage this crowd now because I believe everybody is now waiting for lunch to be declared, so I don't know. See, as long as data analytics is concerned, we have a majority of the crowd coming and obviously from the MBA background and teachers also. The first thing which I would like to tell everybody here is that when we had sent the proposal to ICSSR, we were very ambitious because we were looking for a budget of 30 lakhs. But then gradually in one of the meetings they had told us that you need not select that kind of a comprehensive sample and you need not cover the entire Gujarat. What you can do is you can take a selected sample and you can reduce the sample size and we'll give you 50% of the budget. But then we were very ambitious because when we prepared the questionnaire, we had 172 fields in SPSS and the sample we had was 1027 participants. So if I multiply 172 fields with 1027 in the SPSS sheet, it comes to around 1,80,000 data points. So analyzing 1,80,000 data points and extracting meaningful information from that was a big challenge for us, but we made an effort. Let me just move on with the slides. Talking about the profile of the respondents, we had 626 assistant professors, we had 264 associate professors, and we had 137 professors. This was their designation. So total 1027 was the total sample size that we were able to collect. Talking about the geographical categorization of the data set, we had 123 participants from Rajkot. We had 437 combined Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar. We had 240 from Baroda. And we had 227 from Surat. So that is the total geographical categorization of the data set of 1027 participants. Talking about the source of information for most of the participants, the source of information was for 373 participants was workshops, 562 were seminars and the NEP document released by the government, and 328 internet reports. Now talking about a question that do you think that the sources of information are enough for getting information about the NEP? 759 respondents said that yes, there are enough sources of information available. So that in a way is a pleasant kind of information that yes, there are enough information sources. Now talking about the overall awareness, perception and overall sentiment of the respondents, you can see that in the mid-region, on a scale of 1 to 5, majority of the responses are in the region of around 3 to 4, between 3 to 4, which means that the awareness, perception and overall sentiment as long as the policy document is concerned is positive, at least in the range of 3 to 4, which in a way is a good sign. As long as the standard deviation is concerned, you can see for one of the important questions that do you think NEP 2020 is significant for addressing the challenges of higher education of Gujarat? Though 3.35 was the mean, but still there was a standard deviation of 1.07, which means that the standard deviation in the data set was high. In terms of the responses that were all over the place, in the sense that there were responses that were scattered in terms of responses. So that in a way says that as long as the perception of addressing the challenges of higher education is concerned, it was a kind of a mixed kind of a standard response looking at the standard deviation is concerned. Now we wanted to see whether there is a significant difference in terms of the awareness between three categories of designations, that is assistant professor, associate and professor. Now when we ran at ANOVA, if you want to use a post hoc test like Tukey, you need to have equal sample size distributed among the categories. But because we did not have the similar sample size distributed among the categories, we had to go for Ames-Howell, which is a post hoc test which is used when you don't have equal sample size among the categories, when you want to see significant differences. What we would see now, this is an assumption that we can make and everybody would agree to this, that at assistant professor level, the knowledge and the awareness might not be very high as long as the provisions of NEP are concerned. And that is what was being proved with the help of this test. As you can see, the significance value in the Ames-Howell, the assistant professor, associate professor, first of all, the main difference is minus 2.18. Minus 2.18 means 1 minus J. It means the associate professors have got higher level of awareness in comparison to the assistant professors. So when you have a negative mean difference, that means the position, that is the J column, it has got more awareness in terms of comparison to the I column. So which was a kind of importance also of information that at the level of lower levels, we need a higher level of we need to create a higher level of awareness. Now, the second comparison test was as long as the effective implementation is concerned. So, is this policy effectively implemented across the various geographical regions? Is what we wanted to find. Again, we had run a game forward test, and if you can see the significance value in comparison, if you compare Baroda and Surat, the only significant difference was in that specific area where we are comparing Baroda and Surat, a significance value of 0.025. But again, it is negative 2 to 5, which means that the implementation in Surat is better in comparison to implementation in Baroda. But that was an interesting sort of information we got. We had run a paired sample t-test because one of the important part of the analysis was what is the implementation status among the various dimensions of higher education before the policy and after the policy got implemented. So we had done a paired sample t-test across 35 comparisons. So we compared the implementation before the NAP policy and after the NAP policy. And we saw that, interestingly, you can see that the mean values are negative, which means that when we are comparing progress after NAP and progress before NAP, the progress after NAP in all the dimensions is positive. So that is one important sort of information that we got. The progress in various dimensions of higher education, talking about things like collaboration with industry, integration of cutting-edge areas like artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics, implementation of flexible curricular structures, multiple entry and exit points. Now these are the areas that we wanted to figure out what is the progress after the NAP 2020 implementation. And it was not a pleasant surprise. We were expecting this kind of a response that after the implementation of NAP 2020, the progress is significant in almost all the parameters. So that was the sample t-test. This were all go back. So this were the 35 sets of comparisons that we made across various dimensions of higher education. Now, because we had a big questionnaire, we had a lot of factors and variables in a questionnaire, we thought let us run a factor analysis to extract some kind of meaningful information out of it using a dimension direction technique, which is factor analysis. First, we need to check whether the data set is good enough in the sense can we run factor analysis. For that, we had run the KMO and Bartlett's test of sphericity, and it was the value is 0.963, and the significance is statistically significant, which means that we can run factor analysis. Then we had run the rotated component matrix, out of which we were able to extract 5 factors. So we had we had 45 statements, out of which we were able to extract 5 factors. The first factor, as long as implementation of NAP is concerned, was the rigorous training to teachers in learning-centric pedagogy, that is how to become high-quality online content creators, and adoption of blended learning. So these are the 2 statements which were clubbed under one factor. The second factor was about the 4-year bachelor's program with 1 year research, 1 year master program after 4 years of bachelor's degree, and PhD post 4 years of bachelor's program. So this was the second factor. The third factor spoke about research. The fourth factor was about the evaluation system. And the fifth factor was about integration of research for the faculty and the students. So the 5 factors that we were able to extract was blended learning and online content creation, honors program with research, promotion of research among faculty and students, criterion-based evaluation, and collaboration with industry. So to say that these are the 5 areas where there has been significant progress made after the implementation of NAP 2020. So out of that 45 plus statements, we were able to extract these 5 factors, and we can safely say that these are the 5 areas where significant progress is being made after the implementation of NAP 2020. Perception of the effectiveness also is in the range where everybody is strongly between agree and strongly agree, so which is a good sign. As long as challenges is concerned, I will speak about it, but when I go to the qualitative phase, the challenge with all the social science researchers, including all of us, is that the responses might not be the actual picture. The perceptions can really be measured with that of qualitative research, which might not be sacrosanct as long as quantitative is concerned. So I will be speaking about this when I go to the qualitative analysis. Have you received clear-cut effective communication from the university? Majority of the respondents agree with this. Can we just move on to the qualitative part now? Now, one interesting insight is here again we wanted to see how is the overall sentiment as long as NEP 2020 is concerned among various regions in Gujarat. A very interesting kind of an insight is whether the overall sentiment is positive across the board in Gujarat or is it just positive among certain cities in Gujarat. So we wanted to do it again. We had to do a James Howell because the sample distribution was not equal, and we could see that the only significant value that we could get was the comparison between Surat and Ahmedabad, so 0.029, where the main difference was positive, which means the overall sentiment in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar was better than in comparison to the other cities, and for understandable reasons, because Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar is the hub of whatever implementation has to be done. So we could see that there was a significant difference in terms of the overall positive sentiment, higher in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar in comparison to the other cities. Now this is an important insight. Go back. On a scale of 1 to 5, how prepared is the universities to adapt to and manage the changes introduced by NEP 2020? And here the mean value was 3.89, which means that there is a high proportion of universities and institutions which agree that they will be able to implement and manage the changes which are being introduced in NEP 2020, which is again something which is interesting. Now, how do you perceive NEP as a significant change in the higher education sector in Gujarat? 240 plus 532, which is a good number, out of 1027, around 800 plus respondents said that it is an extremely significant step as long as higher education problems in Gujarat are concerned. Move on. Okay, let's go to the qualitative part. Okay, now the main provisions of NEP 2020. So the qualitative information that we had gathered from the questionnaire, we wanted to create a word cloud where we could see what are the major provisions as long as NEP 2020 is concerned from the understanding of the respondents. Because when you generally give a questionnaire, it's easy to fill. You don't get the real information, but when you are asking for qualitative information, this is what you could gather. Multidisciplinary is a word which is highlighted in a bigger font size, which means that most of the respondents believe that multidisciplinary aspect is one of the main provisions of NEP 2020. Assessment, changes in the assessment patterns, as long as exit options are concerned, flexible program, integration of technology, digital learning, these are the main provisions of NEP 2020. Now, this is an important aspect which I feel this is interesting also because we asked the respondents what do you believe are the major problems of higher education in Gujarat. And the responses were interesting. People said that absence of local languages and faculty appointments is one of the major problems. The gap between theoretical and practical knowledge is another major problem. Disparities in learning standards between public and private schools, public universities and private universities, the disparities in learning standards, language barriers, rigid recruitment policy as long as Adhyapak Sahai is concerned, unprepared academic infrastructure, technical support and tech literacy, high cost of education, lack of qualified teachers, misaligned curriculum, business-oriented mindset, accreditation and enrollment challenges, absence of industry-aligned syllabus, limited employability, prevalence of theoretical knowledge over real-world applications, and over-privatization concerns. These were the major problems highlighted by the respondents as long as the problems of higher education is concerned. And it is not a pleasant surprise, it is not surprising that most of these issues are addressed in the NEP document. So in a way, the purpose is sacrosanct in the way that the policy document has been created after a lot of research by looking at the problems of higher education in Gujarat. So that is something which is pleasing. Moving on, what are the winning propositions of NEP? Again, a qualitative aspect, which was a question which was there. What are the winning propositions of NEP 2020? First is incorporation of a 4 years bachelor's program with 1 year certification. In fact, honors degree with 4 years, it's going to be helpful for all those people who are aspiring to go abroad, because abroad if you want to get into a master's degree, you need a 4 years degree, so that is one of the welcome change. Second is a multidisciplinary approach. Increasing the gross enrollment ratio by 50% by 2035 is again a winning proposition. Financial support, especially for open distance learning. Academic bank of credit has very well been spoken about by Professor Tejas. is one of the greatest highlight in terms of the winning propositions is concerned. Promotion of Indian culture, language, yoga, music and sports aligning with the academic curriculum is again a winning proposition. Flexibility within the education system, that is supporting multiple entry and exit points, language adaptability, and implementation of a flexible course structure. These are some of the winning propositions of the NEP 2020, and these are not kind of MCQ based options we had given, but this one was from the horse's mouth. That is, this came in terms of the qualitative responses. So in a way, we can say that most of the sentiment is positive as long as the document is concerned. Now, knowledge gaps. Again, this is the important sort of information that we received. There is a lack of extensive education sessions. So I would like to highlight this to Professor Tejas also, that if you can put this word across the UGC. There is a lack of extensive educational sessions in terms of workshops and seminars to disseminate comprehensive information about NEP 2020. So that is one of the knowledge gaps. Second is necessity for clear guidelines and well-defined strategies for implementing the policy. Policy is good, no doubt. Good, written document, well-intentioned document, but what is missing is the implementation guidelines. If that is being made clear, then I think the implementation will become easier. Our training programs, activities and continuous awareness sessions is required. Awareness about academic bank of credits, because majority of the students and even the faculty members are not aware about what this provision is. More collaboration with the industry for internships, credit transfer mechanisms, and also lack of awareness among the parents and the community members. So this is a major knowledge gap. Now the challenges of implementation are: number one, funding, financial support, readiness of infrastructure and technology, examination system, student-teacher ratio, language-related challenges, including training of teachers in local languages, and creating a research-based infrastructure. Now, the key focus areas for the successful implementation of NEP 2020. Number one of the most important critical success factor is continuous FTPs and training sessions. Clear policies at all the levels. Infrastructure development and integration of modern technology. Collaborative initiatives between the university and industry partnerships. Regular communication, workshops, seminars, training programs. And most importantly, specifically in the private universities, contingent on a positive management mindset. If you have a positive management mindset towards this, only then you will be able to implement it. Otherwise, it's going to go for a toss. Now, the recommendations that we as a team have given to the government is: number one is to have tailored awareness programs. In places where we have covered Rajkot and a few local places, people are not aware about the NEP document, so having tailored awareness campaigns. Dedicated training programs is important. Regular communication between the universities and the government is important. Peer mentoring programs. In some universities, the implementation is on a higher side, and in some, implementation has not started. It is important to have peer mentoring programs where faculties from places where the implementation is on the higher side can go and mentor other places. Incorporate NEP 2020 in the professional development plans of the faculties. Include this in the API score also. If you are implementing this in the API, only then faculties will be motivated to implement it. So that is important. Have regional awareness campaigns, cross-regional collaboration. Like we were seeing places in Karnataka, they don't want to implement it. In Gujarat, there's a positive sentiment. We must have cross-state collaboration for implementation. Have regional task force. So a task force for Gujarat, which 24 hours a day is thinking about the implementation part of it. So there has to be regional task forces in Gujarat and other places as well. Invest in regional professional development. Industry collaboration is important. Integration of emerging fields, AI, big data, nanotechnology, all these in the curriculum is important. Support for multiple entry and exit points. Promotion of research opportunities. Strengthening the digital infrastructure. We're talking about blended learning, online learning. For that, it is important for us to improve the digital infrastructure across the board, all the universities. Expand research-focused programs. It has already started with the 4 years graduate degree. Incentivize research initiatives for the faculty members. Support emerging technology integration in the curriculum. Transparent merit-based systems, proper governance structures, competency-based assessments, enhance support for international collaborations, There has to be fine balance between standardization and autonomy. If you are giving total autonomy, then it can be disastrous. There has to be fine blend between both, having a standardized policy and giving autonomy. Socio-economic disparities mitigation. There is a lot of socio-economic disparities across the various regions in Gujarat. If you want the NEP 2020 to be implemented successfully, there has to be reduction in the socio-economic disparities. Technical and vocational education alignment has to be done. Prioritize inclusivity across the board and community engagement. There has to be clarification campaigns because there is a lot of misinformation. People are not absolutely aware of the document. There is a lot of information which is wrong. Clarification campaigns is the need of the hour. Enhanced governance and leadership training is required because if this document has to be successfully implemented, it has to be from the top. Leadership programs are important. Tailored support especially for the socio-economically disadvantaged areas. If you look at the overall length and breadth of the country, we are spread across like places where there is a lot of facilities and places where there are no facilities, even of basic water and electricity. So how would you implement and document which is as ambitious as this? That is where tailored support is required. Comprehensive readiness assessment. Are we ready for it? Are the various universities ready for it? If we are going to enforce it, will they be able to implement it? Those sort of assessments are required. Establishment of resource centers is the need of the hour, and we also have to provide incentives for readiness improvement. So these are some of the recommendations given. I think most of the participants are now looking towards the watches and also looking towards the door because I believe lunch would be waiting. So food, especially for food. Anyways, but the overall thing is NEP 2020 has been created with a good amount of intentions, good ambitions, but the implementation has started, and in the times to come, I'm sure we'll be able to see good results. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. These insights were really informative and relative. Now, I would like to request Dr. Darshana Dalaman to comment and conclude.
Last 2 minutes, okay. This project was a real learning, and I would like to begin my vote of thanks by thanking ICSSR for giving this opportunity to go for such a project. And this was really detailed, comprehensive. They were good enough in terms of taking the regular feedback also from us, and full support was available. So I thank them. Apart from that, the university also really this time put in a lot of efforts to speed up the process, because this was a short-term project. Within 6 months, if everything has to be done with respect to permissions and all, it was a really good response from the university this time. So I had a relatively happier time doing this particular project. And the project directors which were there along with me and Dr. Rahim, I would definitely like to thank them first of all. Thanking Rahim particularly because he has really worked hard on not only preparing the proposal but planning and finally this analysis part of it, which was to be completed. So we actually got permission somewhere around September, and because of some delay from the ICSSR, we could start only in November. So just imagine within 3 months, we were supposed to not only collect the data but analyze it and submit he submitted the report yesterday night. Right? So to that extent, within this much of time, this Herculean task has been completed. So really thank him for his zeal again and will to do the work. And also other project directors helped us in collecting data from different regions, because covering the whole of Gujarat otherwise would not have been possible. So that is another a big thank you is required for them. I would like to specifically thank Dr. Tejas Joshi. He has come all the way from Bhavnagar, immediately accepted my request for coming as a speaker. Not only that, I revised the date also because ICSSR actually told us that no, you conduct the workshop only after 10th of Feb. Otherwise, initially it was planned on 29th Jan. So he not only accepted in the first place, but he also gave consent for the second date as well. And also provided a very detailed kind of a presentation today which covered almost all the aspects related to NEP implementation. So thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time and inputs that you have provided, and really we have benefited from the experience that you had during your deputation in UGC. So I am really thankful to you for your inputs. At the 12th hour rather, Mitesh Jaswal sir also readily accepted because the previous speaker could not come, so I would like to thank him also. And our Vice Chancellor, I think, I don't know how many times I should be thanking him. On various occasions, he has never said no to come to our department, and he has been really motivational in terms of anything that we go with a proposal. So my hearty congratulations and thanks to Vice Chancellor sir, as well as the Registrar and other administrative staff, particularly the general section of the university, who is through which section this whole process is getting done in terms of payments of bill and appointments of the staff and all. One more thing, I really enjoy one thing with respect to research projects, that we are in a position to create employment for many research associates. Not only employment, but they are gaining experience also out of it. So in this particular project, I had 4 research assistants who really helped me, like they have never said no. I really thank Dharmishta and Amisha. Dharmishta kaun? Dharmishta, is there, and Akash is there. Akash is from an army because he's the only one who knew how to drive scooter. And Yamuna is also there. So all these 4, right from day one, they have never said no for any task, anything, and they are really worthy of research assistants. I would suggest all the other faculty members who are going to have projects in future, we have the staff ready, you just proceed with it, right? So they have really done a good job, and this young generation is techno-savvy, so that is why people like me definitely would be benefiting from their presence. So thank you for all your efforts. Thank you to all the faculty members of the department for time to time they are not only motivating but guiding also. Jaswal sir, आपको मैंने thank आपकी excellence में कर दिया है, फिर से कर सकती हूँ, because you helped me at the last moment when Madam could not come to, Garima Madam could not come to deliver the talk. So, and yes, of course, my young brigade, the students of the department who are always willing, except for attending the sessions, everything else they will be doing. So, thank you for your enthusiasm and always ready to help, kind of, right? So, I really thank all of them. Even Priyan sir, because when this project came, he was the director, right? So, he has really supported and without saying no to anything, he has just approved everything, right? And the participants, I was expecting more faculty members from institutes, but fine, whosoever has come, yes, this was mainly meant for you, right? So the faculty members from various institutions in and around Vallabh have come and they have participated. I am sure you are taking back the learnings back to your institution and discuss with others also. And I wish you also get into the mode of writing such research proposals and bringing grants to your institutions. So thank you once again. Thank you for all. We end this workshop here, of course, after lunch. Yeah. Yes, and the participants can stay back for a group photo. We will have to submit it to ICSSR as well. So please, quickly, can we have a photo here, just in front of the stage? Can we do that? Thank you.
આપણે જો